What up, y'all? It's FortWorthFabian, man. BigBossFabo back with a video. Excuse me. Back with a video for the channel, man. I'm actually doing a reaction to Johnny Depp's lawyer reacts to Buster Murdaugh's defamatory media warnings. Defamatory. Okay. Nah, this one was going up though on the Line Crime Network. This dropped about 17 hours ago, close to 500,000 views already. With that being said, man, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Been tapping into a lot of the Murdoch stuff. Pretty much everything I've been dropping been heat in terms of that. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, tapping in, tune in. Yeah, let's get into this reaction, man. I did drop a previous video that was kind of detailing the fact about the whole situation with Buster and the fact that he had, was up to some suspicious activities around that time. You know what I mean? And tied to the murder of his classmate. With that being said, it's just a lot of things that didn't make sense, didn't add up. You know what I mean? So interested to see what this lawyer has to say. His insight and his perspective. So let's go ahead and hop into the video.
Buster's in a very difficult spot. He's a true victim here as far as the murders of his mother and brother. And, he just lost his father essentially on Friday when he was sentenced to double life in prison. But there's been the long rumored involvement somehow of a Murdaugh, whether it's him or somebody else in the family that has knowledge at least of the death of Stephen Smith.
Should media companies and people be concerned that Buster Murdoch, the sole surviving son of convicted killer Alec Murdoch, will sue them? Sidebar co-host Anjanette Levy and Johnny Depp's civil lawyer Banshu come on to discuss.
That boy ready to
Welcome
sue.
To Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I'm gonna sue you for decimation. Bro, I already know, like, it's coming.
There are some interesting things happening right now in the Stephen Smith case. Now, this is something that we actually dedicated a whole Sidebar episode to, and the connections of this story to the Alec Murdoch saga. But a quick refresher for everybody out there. 19-year-old Stephen Smith was found dead on a road in Hampton County, South Carolina, back in July of 2015. Now, the coroner initially ruled this case a hit and run. In fact, the manner of death was listed as undetermined. But there were a lot of strange details to indicate that something else might have happened. For instance, there were no visible signs that he had been hit by a car. There was no bumper. There was no broken glass. There were no fragments. Nothing from a part of a car anywhere to be found around the scene. And with Stephen Smith's body, he had severe head trauma, but only very few scratches on his arms and legs. His shoes were still on. There was blood that was only found right next to his body and not along the road. So
I'm saying, that's just fishy, bruh. A lot of these details, and I just don't understand how these things weren't caught before. Now we want to, re-exhume, and guess what? Things are fishy now. They've been fishy from the start. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like authorities are working backwards here when you could have had, if it didn't add up to a hit and run, why not pretty much, when you're doing the autopsy, look for other outliers, other things that don't add up to conclude that it wasn't a hit and run accident.
So the question
it's really
came up
simple.
Is it possible he was killed in some other way? Was it possible he was killed and placed there? And when I say that, that is when the rumors happened. So first I should tell you that Stephen Smith was openly gay. And there were rumors, again, what I'm about to say is pure speculation.
That
but
Buster
I have to
and him
report
was
this
in a
order for this to
relationship.
make sense. There were rumors.
Damn. Be sure to like the video, man. Comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Going around that Stephen Smith was in some sort of relationship with Buster Murdoch, the sole surviving son of convicted killer Alec Murdoch. In fact, that was alluded to in HBO's documentary Low Country, The Murdoch Dynasty. Now, the real question, the reason it's believed that the Murdochs were somehow allegedly involved is because Alec Murdoch and his brother actually were at the crime scene, I believe about an hour after the body was moved. A question of why were they there? I mean, These were lawyers. It was a personal injury firm, but still a question of why they were there. And then Stephen's mother says that even before the family was alerted by the sheriff's office to Stephen's death, Stephen's dad, Joel, gets a call from Randy Murdoch offering to investigate the case for them, apparently free of charge. So there's been speculation for a while. And
That's
then
fishy,
there was
bruh.
Stephen's mother, who came forward as well. And then I want to go to this big announcement from Stephen's mother,
Real fishy.
as well as Eric Bland, who is representing her.
My partner, Ronnie, Richter, and I received an extraordinary phone call from the chief of SLED, Mark Keel, who told us that it's now the state's official position that Stephen Smith did not die from a highway fatality on July 8, 2015.
Do you have any belief, Sandy, about what happened to your son?
I believe he was beaten to death.
Why and by whom?
That I don't know.
So SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, who's handling this investigation now, rules this a homicide. And the family is now working to order that Stephen Smith's body be exhumed as well for further analysis. But several days ago, Buster Murdoch released a statement. And this is part of what he wrote. Quote, "I have tried my best to ignore the vicious rumors about my involvement in Stephen Smith's tragic death that continue to be published in the media as I grieve over the brutal murders of my mother and brother. I love them so much and I miss them terribly."
I don't know. It kind of sounds like deflection to me. Everything else is like condolences, right? But I love them and miss them terribly, which we know, we ain't doubting that. The murders happened, what, 2 years ago? We in 23, yeah. They happened in 2021, I believe. So, I don't know, bro. If they find out more evidence that could allude to the fact that Buster did this, bro, this story is just blown out of the stratosphere, my dude. Like, this thing will be blown out of the water. Think about it. One of the biggest criminal cases that we've had, you know, family murder, that was initially set up to be a murder mystery. But, I mean, obviously the police did their job. And so many other stories that have been tied to this family, right? We know about Paul crashing a boat that ended up killing, you know, one of his classmates or friends. I mean, let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? That one's kind of blatant. But this case, this story, to find out Buster actually had some type of dealing with this would be wild for this whole story. Just the whole Murdaugh story, bro.
"These baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false." And he goes on to say, "I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family. I am requesting that the media immediately stop publishing these defamatory comments and rumors about me." So given this news, is there a chance that Buster
Defamatory.
Murdoch could start suing media outlets or people over the Stephen Smith story? Well, let me bring in right now the dream team. I got with me my sidebar co-host, law and crime correspondent Anjanette Levy, and also joining us is attorney Banshu, who knows a thing or two about when words can get someone in trouble. He famously represented actor Johnny Depp in his defamation lawsuit, his defamation trial against actress Amber Heard. This was a trial that we covered extensively on Law and Crime and here on Sidebar. It's great to see you both. Thank you both for taking the time to come on today.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse. It's an honor to be teamed up with you and Anjanette as part of the Dream Team.
Honor to be with Anjanette. Don't know if it's an honor to be with me, but I'll take it nonetheless. Anjanette, I'm going to start with you. I kind of laid out the case. If I missed anything, please, add to it. But my understanding here is that after this announcement, the reason it's kind of connected now back to Buster Murdoch is, didn't SLED say something to say, it's important this is coming out about the homicide of Stephen Smith, especially after the verdict in the Alec Murdaugh trial?
Well, the comments that were made didn't relate to Buster specifically. Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter, who represent Sandy Smith now, they were just retained over the last several days, last Friday to be exact, said that Mark Keel told them that he believes that there's a small circle of people who have information about Stephen Smith's death. And since Alec Murdaugh has now been convicted of murdering his wife and son, and he is in prison, he's in a maximum security prison, sentenced to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole, that those people who may have that information may feel more comfortable coming forward now because the Murdochs don't have this so-called stranglehold on the area anymore. That doesn't mean it relates to Buster Murdaugh. It doesn't. We know, as you said, that Alec Murdaugh and Randy Murdaugh showed up at the scene that morning. Alec was a volunteer solicitor. We don't know if that's why he was there. And also, Randy had represented Sandy Smith, Stephen Smith's father, Sandy Smith's husband, in a workers' comp claim, and had called her, as you said, that morning and said, you know, I'll represent you guys. So we don't know if it relates to Buster at all, but there may be somebody connected to the Murdochs possibly. We just don't know.
We already know it's Buster, bro.
But Ben, that brings me to you. The
Come on.
fact that Buster has released this statement and specifically used the word defamatory, a legal term of art, you think he's on the lookout right now for what people print or say? And I have to tell you, I think it's interesting he puts that statement out now after the trial.
Jesse, I suspect you're right in that.
Honestly, before we let Mr. Banshu take it away, this is what I mentioned in my previous video, that I don't think it's surprising that he's putting that term out there, especially post case or basically post trial. You know what I mean? Because I was talking about the fact that there was that phone call that leaked, and it was Alex and his son Buster on the phone, and Buster was pretty much telling him how his life's hell. Every time he steps outside, he's getting name called. People, threatening him. He get death threats. People are pretty much just everywhere. He's got a face card. Wherever he goes, people know who he is, So I think this is that last stretch, that bitter pool to try to save his name. He's putting that out there to say, damn, like my whole family's name's already been dragged through the mud already. Like, if anything, I'm going to try to protect every bit and piece I can of my name, of what's left of it, in the sense that maybe I could try to live a decent life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense to me. It's not outlandish for him to try to take this stance.
He is looking very carefully, scrutinizing what's said and written in the media. But I think Anjanette puts her finger on it as usual, which is for any defamation action to proceed or to succeed, the statement has to be of or concerning the plaintiff. So it has to be clear or clearly implied. So I think unless and until someone specifically fingers Buster for the murder or being implicated, I think any action by him would be premature, because he couldn't show the requisite element that the defamatory statement was of and concerning him, as opposed to an amorphous group of people, even a fairly limited group of people.
Let's expand upon that, Ben, for a minute. So, in other words, this is a big news update about the fact that this has now been ruled a homicide. If media companies come out and start talking about the backstory between Buster and amplifying the rumors, maybe not directly implicating them, are they crossing a line here? I mean, look, right now, we're reporting on this because it's a big situation, and this statement, I think, is important. But when could media outlets start crossing the line and be a little bit, they have to be more careful about what they say? And you know what? I'll expand that out. Not just the media, but attorneys and other public individuals as well talking about Stephen Smith and talking about Buster Murdaugh.
I would say, Jesse, that the media have an additional layer of protection in the fair reporting doctrine. They can always point to sources. They don't have to vouch for their sources per se. In other words, as you know, it would be a defense for a media outlet to say that negligence can be a defense. For lawyers, it's a bit dicier. Lawyers can be certainly lawyers outside of court can be sued for defamation, not only in their individual capacities, but also as agents of their clients. So lawyers sometimes forget that the second they step out of the courtroom, they're just like everybody else. So I would say lawyers generally are more vulnerable.
I don't even see why a lawyer would even be talking about, like, why would a lawyer even be talking about case business outside, like be a gossiper? It wouldn't even make sense to me. I think a lot of them kind of know the kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like the business I handle and the business I'm discussing regarding the cases done in court, like, or, maybe with one of my associates, like, I don't know, my superior, I don't know.
More vulnerable than media companies. Fox News, of course, is a different situation because there you have personalities on that network who have apparently admitted that what they were saying, they knew that what they were saying is false. And so that gives the rare occasion where those media can be found liable for defamation.
This guy here went from delivering these to being a full-time wholesaler in less than 12 months. That was Elijah.
Yeah, I was wondering when all that was going on if you were just looking at that and shaking your head and being like, oh my gosh, could you not have created a better case? That's totally different. Fox News case, totally different. We won't even get into that. And Jeanette, so when it comes to Ronnie Richter, or it comes to Eric Bland, or it comes to anybody, the friends or family of Stephen Smith, I feel that they've been very careful in their word choice when specifically asked about Buster Murdaugh. What can you tell us about that?
They have been. And, you know, it's important to note Sandy Smith wrote a letter to the FBI back in 2016, I believe. And she outlined some of the things that people in the community had told her. And she did talk about Buster. But you can tell from reading this letter that she is being told these things, and she's relaying this to the FBI as she looks for help in investigating what she believed to be a murder, not a hit and run. Now, I think that Eric Bland and Sandy Smith have all said in the last couple of days, and I literally just spoke with Eric Bland, we have no information that Buster Murdaugh is involved in this case. We know what was in the case file and what was reported by people about these rumors that were swirling around. It's a small town, but they've been very...
Yeah, nah, think about it. There's no real way to tie him. Even if they exhume the body and they find out it was like, I don't know, they find maybe internal wounds to dictate he was actually hit by a car. I don't know, bruh. How do you tie Buster to that? There's no real way to do it.
Be careful to say they don't know. It's just what they've been told, and that they don't have any information that Buster was involved. And Sandy even told me on the phone a couple of weeks ago when we were talking that she did not believe that Buster and Stephen had any relationship. They were high school classmates. I think what gets dicey is when people watch these documentaries, and I think you have to be really careful. And some of these documentaries are very well done, but there was one in particular that I watched that came out during the trial, and I was kind of taken aback because I felt they were casting Buster in a really bad light, and that it was getting up there to crossing the line. And then people watch that, and then they do a news story about it, and Buster this, Buster that, with regard to Stephen Smith, and asking all these questions. So you can kind of see how, if you're saying I had nothing to do with this was my high school classmate, how you might feel like something really bad is going on and that you are being defamed. I mean, there was some guy outside the courthouse following Alec Murdaugh's sentencing who screamed, "Buster's next." I mean, it's just
I've
kind
seen
of,
that.
with the internet, it's fueling the fire.
Yeah, it's really troubling, especially when, as I said, he is the sole surviving son. Think about what he went through. He lost his mother, he lost his brother, and essentially lost his father. And now these are pure speculation and pure rumors. I am curious, though, Ben, as this investigation takes a new turn and maybe, advances, as new developments come out, what action could Buster Murdaugh take, maybe to protect his name, but also the name of his family? And I'm curious because if anything should come out that wrongly implicates his brother or his mother or even his father, is there any action he can take on behalf of them?
Hell no.
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, the Constitution does not readily allow prior restraints. So clients often come and say, how can I stop somebody who's from defaming me? And the answer, unfortunately, is usually no. That in light of the First Amendment, the protection of speech is so strong, you essentially have to wait until the speech occurs, and then you can sue for money damages. So there's very little as a prophylactic measure Buster can do to prevent future speech, even if the future speech is foreseeable. He would have to wait until there's an actionable statement, and then he would have to file a complaint for which the remedy is money damages. Which,
but just real quick to follow up on that, Ben, if somebody comes out with something and says something, what he believes is defamatory against his deceased family members or even his father, can he take an action on their behalf?
It's a great question, Jesse. Defamation is a personal action, and it often dies with the victim, as it were. So Buster has to pay attention to any defamatory statements about him as opposed to someone who is deceased. Defamation is an odd tort in that it is a personal tort.
Banshu, Anjanette Levy, always wish we had a little bit more time, but it was great to have you guys here.
That's it. That's right there. Johnny Depp's lawyer details Buster Murdaugh's defamatory media warnings, bruh. So basically, when it comes to defamation, it only really applies to you personally. You can't, try to sue for you defaming somebody's family member or something like that. Somebody defamed your name or your family tree. Nah, bruh. That's not how it works, man. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Lion Crime Network playlist. I'll see you guys in the next video, man. We out.